Good day all. Ira Epstein of Linn Associates with your financial market wrap-up for this Tuesday, the 24th of August, 2021, just getting on to 5:30 in the afternoon. I want to make a statement here. You know, I've been talking about people that how they were going to be ostracized for not getting their vaccine. Nowhere have I ever said in these tapes that you must get a vaccine. Had some people writing, that's not what I'm saying. I will be the first to stand up for the people that don't want to get it. That's their right. Forget what I may think if they're right or wrong on it. That's not what I've ever said. But the fact that they're being ostracized and people want you to carry a pass to get into a restaurant now, gyms in big cities, yeah, that is happening. And you call it what you want, but I'll say what it is. They're making you feel like the odd person out. And as soon as they ask, did you get this shot? Didn't you prove it? You're COVID free. If you didn't do it that way, you can prove that. You're at that other end of the spectrum. That's all I'm saying. I will stand up for anybody. That's why we live in America, right? That's what it's about. Okay, so in America, I'm embarrassed. I assume all of us are at the handling of Afghanistan. I'm watching the polls. I'm not by myself on that. And yeah, I will say I'm embarrassed. This is not how this should have gone. I was even embarrassed at the news conference today when President Biden came out, and I am not bashing him, so don't write me about that. How do you start off that thing, and why are you bringing out all the good you've done? Sounds like Trump all over again. Talk about the issue at hand and get off the stage. Could I be clearer? This idea, well, I'm going to tell them all the good things that are happening. I don't know who's his advisor. Fire them all. So as we take a look, you're getting the metals breaking down a little. You're getting the dollar pausing. It's a pullback after a big surge. The energy markets are stable, but we must understand the port in China that opened, and I don't know all these Chinese names, but it's the third largest port in the world, has reopened as of yesterday, and traffic is now flowing again, and that will start to alleviate this backup that we've had. Now, it doesn't get alleviated in the first week. It takes time. I understood there was about 40 ships waiting a day to do something on the port, to obviously load and then get reloaded and move on. That doesn't happen overnight, but they'll make it go fast. Chinese stock market has rallied sharply. Why? The market is telling us that wherever this happens and you're starting to reopen, aren't they really saying whatever that surge in the COVID was, in this case on the port, one case that they've told us about, whatever that surge was, it's passed and the market's moving. Well, what do you think's going on in the U.S.? We keep hearing the terrible numbers, 1,000 people dying a day, 150,000 cases of the new COVID, but we're also not hearing that it's spreading quite the way that it was, and the question is, are we peaking? And a lot of people think that that's what's happening. If you peak, you get the reflation trade. Get a gamma, whatever, C type, all the Greek letters that you want, other new variants, different game. So we'll see just where this is all going to carry, how it's going to carry, and obviously we have to live through it. So we take a look at what the indexes have done. You're up a full percentage point going into Wednesday, midweek, new record high, if the market were to close like this. When we take a look at the S&P, this has been one heck of a break, and then a rally that not only made all that up, but went through it. Anyone, and I'm one of those guys that wasn't spellbound by that. You talk the head fake, yeah, it was a big head fake. So what do you do with that? Well, that's the problem, because you're not in a trend. I know that the big picture on the weekly chart is trending. No question. If you're one of my subscribers, I point it out almost every day to you. It's still embedded. You're still in blah, blah, blah if you're a weekly trader, not a daily trader. And you have to survive the day area to get to the week. It's wonderful when I do it on the weekly chart. If you've got, for a contract, say $20,000, you're not worried about the in and out. These moves, they're the bigger things. You're trading off the weekly. But when you're on a daily with the margin, that's when the pressure comes. You don't have to believe me. Trade, and you'll find out I'm very, very right on what I'm saying. I've been around this long enough and done it long enough to know how this game works. Running a brokerage firm, you learn so much. In the S&P, when I look at the market, since it's over the 18-week average of closes, 18-day moving average of closes in this chart. The bias is up. That's over the 100, over the 200. All the parts of this market are bullish. But look where you're at. I pay a great attention to it. The odds of staying over this black dashed line or under it is 5% of the time. I want to be the house. If you want to come in and play cards and you tell me that my game is going to win 95% of the time, I know you can do the wrong things for 5% of the time and beat me at that point. But if you play long enough, I'm going to get most of your money over time. And when you buy over a Bollinger Band, all I'm saying is the smart money's coming out there because they realize over it, the market's not going to stay. You'll probably get a pullback, probably. If you don't, you don't. I'm also saying something here that's very difficult. You're not in a trend. You got a higher high, lower low. You're bouncing back and forth here. I accept that. I accept the psychiatry trade, as I call it, and the market is overbought. Every part that I follow just says I don't want to be involved on the daily chart with that type of action. NASDAQ is identical. Overbought. Lower band to upper band. I know you're pushing the bands out, but that right now is not a trend. Embed, like you did back here with the slow stochastic, I'll be all over the market. You'll hear me jumping up and down just the way I did back at those stages. But my job here as a chartist is to say there's better plays out there in other markets, and that's what I'm saying. In the Dow, it went from the upper band to the lower band, shooting back up. I'll let you try to catch that. The only people that are making money on this, the average person, they got to be picking tops. So why don't you pick one here? Then it goes there. I mean, that's nonsense. I'd rather try to catch trends as they move with the market. In the Russell, it's finally saying, okay, don't leave me behind all the way, and you're coming up here. But is it just being dragged along, or is this a trend change? It's not a trend change. It's so far being dragged along. In the bond market, I was expecting that if you fell back, and we've talked about this, take a look. You were coming up, didn't quite make it to these Bollinger Bands. I said there's a window envelope top you got to be looking at. You don't always hit a Bollinger Band. And the market was coming up there. If it falls back, the key is right here, 164.28. If you take out this low here, you change the whole pattern of the chart. Why does that happen? Because then you'd have a higher high, lower low. It wouldn't surprise me going into whatever the Fed's going to do. Goldman Sachs today came out and they were writing about the 10-year notes and the tapering and so on. I was reading their note on it. And yeah, I get notes from many people from different ways. And they've now given it a 45% probability for a November tapering announcement. I didn't see that they did anything with the upcoming September announcement, so I don't know where their percentage is on there. So they're obviously thinking that. I can get along with that time very well. I don't think the Fed's going to, at this FOMC, and I'll be wrong as can be, why would they do this when we have all this 1,000 people a day dying, 150,000 new cases of COVID? You saw the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. They backed off. They wanted to do a half-point hike. Just not the time. I think we have the same issue. And it's not a rate hike we're talking about. It's tapering. But I think they're going to get more data under their belt and they'll let this thing die off a little, and then they'll make their move. Goldman also thought it would be about $15 billion a month. $10 billion from what I read would come out of Treasuries, $5 out of mortgage-backed securities. Assume they do that each and every month from their current program. It might be September of 22 before they stop buying, which means they're still buying all the way through, not just as much. Here's your 10-year note. So the 10-year's got lower highs, lower lows. It's already in a downtrend. I'll say the same thing I said for the bull on the 30-year. Why do you want to go into that? Let it do its thing. This market's waiting for a piece of news that would take the market by surprise and clobber you. In the dollar index, I'm looking for big support tomorrow at the 92.78 level. Right in that zone. If you take out 92.47, you destroy this move to the upside. Momentum was overbought and it's already turning down. I don't think for a guy like me, I'd be doing much there. In the eurocurrency, it's the flip-flop of that. Now you're up to the key resistance at the 18-day average. Take out this number and you're no longer in a trend. Momentum up, price up, but trend down. British pound, the market's oversold still. Any reading under 30, the way I teach charting, you walk away from trying to put on a new position with that. If it's embedded, that's different. We don't have an embedded status. You had an embedded status in Bitcoin. I think the people bought today on the break if they did. And as you can see, your numbers are still over 80. So I think this pullback was being bought. You had a bullish crossover of price where the 18-day, as I showed you yesterday, well, actually, this is today's. As I showed yesterday, you were getting very close to the crossover. You got it today, where the 18 is crossed over the 100-day, and it's still there tonight. You even see it better. So pullbacks probably being bought. I don't see the trade coming out of their bullish thought process right here. In Brent versus WTI crude, it's still just marching in the favor of the Brent at this point. I'm going to have to switch over to the Novembers. Remember, Brent goes off the board way early on the October contract. Here's the Brent right now, and I'm still accurate. This is Wednesday 25th, so it's still quoting it. Higher high, lower low. You have really done a nice job of coming into these key resistance points, and like they didn't exist, slicing through them. So the people under here all got caught short as the market reverted. But again, if you were watching the Chinese stock markets, they're soaring, even with the big clampdowns. And again, I think it's because the COVID died down. In WTI, right up to the same numbers. You're neutral now on that chart as I have it. Heating oil, right back to the line in the sand. Battleground day, no trend, too oversold to even have thought about doing anything but coming out against the Bollinger Band. That's how I was putting it out in my updates and so on. And nat gas, still a problem. Now they're saying that Texas is going to get more rain and not as hot as it's been. That was behind today's picture. In Chicago, we're 94. With the humidity and all we've got, we're like 102 or so. So it's hot and it's staying that way for a week. But that's what the market thought. Okay, I understand it, been in a downtrend, that's the resistance. But to go short there and put a stop way up here in the 414 area, let somebody else have that type of risk. And that's what we talk about so often, risk setups. If you want to learn more about technical indicators, we have a 2-volume series for you. It discusses with great detail all of this from our good friends at Futures Magazine. And you can see just how this all works. Modern Trader is their name also now. They have 2 different names. And you can see all these parts. I talk about all of this at some point, one way or the other. And if you ever attend a seminar of mine, I'll answer questions on a lot of these as well. They're free to you. We made them into PDFs. How do you get them? Just go to our website. On the bottom right, it says what? Free offers. Click on one and away you go. I'm Ira Epstein. You have a good evening.